Welcome to the Books and Beer Book Club, coming to you from Cercis Brewing Company in Columbus, Wisconsin. We're a different kind of book club, only reading books by authors who can visit us in person or via Zoom for the discussion. We've been going strong since 2015, meeting nearly every month. We're now making these fun and informative discussions available to you on video. I'm your host, Valerie Beal. I'm an author myself, and I enjoy interviewing our guest authors and facilitating the questions from our readers both in person and on Zoom. We hope you enjoy this replay. To join us live, please check out our schedule on our Facebook page at Books and Beer Columbus.
Thank you for joining us. And I feel like I know you way better than I should for just meeting you like 2 minutes ago because of this book. So, which is very fun.
I had that experience after the book was published. I had, spent so many years writing it and hadn't really thought about when people read it. And I remember being at our local IGA and overhearing in the next aisle, people were discussing my life. Like, oh, people are actually reading it now. I anticipated it going out in the world, but I hadn't thought about when people read it, it comes back to me. So anyway.
Well, I mean, you came at this experience, with a journalist's eye. Like you'd been a journalist for a long while before you went on this amazing journey. Some might say potentially crazy journey, but did you always know you were going to write a book about it? I mean, were you taking your notes about the trip as you went, thinking you would write a book?
No, complete opposite. I mean, this was, as you pointed out before about the technology, this was before I started my first email account on this trip. Like I did not have an email account, and I stopped at the local library I think it was in Two Harbors, and started an email account so I could I was doing small journalistic columns for the Ashland Daily Press, which is where I had been a daily reporter. And so that was just, not professional. It was just for fun and a way to kind of just capture the trip for all the people back here there were so many people that were involved in rooting for us. And so I did that. I think I only did like maybe 5 columns. So it was like, different sections of the trip when we would stop and have some time off. The amazing thing with that paddling part of the journey is there was very little time for writing. We were paddling all day long, but I did go in specifically not to write a book. I wouldn't say I had burned out as a journalist, but I wanted to truly take a vacation. And for me, that was taking a vacation because when you're a writer, you're thinking about how you're going to convey your day every day. And so if I had been gone in thinking I'm going to write about this, I don't think I would have been allowed myself to be in the moment, because I would have been, because there's so much thinking time. I would have been paddling along thinking like, how would I describe this to my readers? And I did not do that. And Charly actually took incredible notes. And so when I got to the point of wanting to write about it, which was a few years after, I really relied on a lot of his notes and then the letters we wrote. We wrote letters like I've never written before. I mean, just detailed, with sketches. And I wrote just like so many letters to my mom, and I don't think I've probably written a letter since, but it was it was a great letter writing period. So those people that I had written letters to gave me back the letters when I was working on the book.
Oh, that's fabulous. And when you think about too, it reminded me of, the way you would get your bundles of mail, like ahead at a point where you have, mailed things to yourself ahead on your journey. It reminded me of Cheryl Strayed's story. What was the name of that? Wild? No.
Wild.
Yeah, where she's on the Pacific Crest Trail, and Reese Witherspoon played her in the movie. And I was like, that was my only experience with this concept of having such a long journey that you cannot carry everything with you. It would be ridiculous that you have to like mail things ahead. But the logistics of this trip were incredible. Was that mostly your husband? Was that mostly Charly taking all that on?
Yeah, well, Charly had the experience for sure. He was trained at Camp Manitouche. I don't know if there's people there who know the camp. And it's a joke between the two of us because Camp Manitowish has their very specific way of the way they do things, and they have a formula. It's your 10 days of meals, and then you start over, and you have 10 more days of meals. So in some ways, it does make it very manageable, because if you're thinking out, we were thinking out for over a year, how do we do these 10-day blocks? And then you just times it by that many weeks, or that many, 10-day blocks. And so that was largely, Charlie came to it with that formula. And then the logistics, yeah, for sure. He loves logistics. He lives for logistics. There was so much to think about with like how we got our winter stuff up, where we knew we wanted to overwinter, and then my parents played a big role in bringing stuff up to us, and yeah, much to think about ahead of time. And I mean, he's a master. That's all I can say is he's really good at loves to do it. And I mean, I could do it now. Once you see how it's done, it's like, oh yeah, okay, this is how you do it.
Well, I mean, it's complicated, and it's not like you can run down to the whatever store, I
Yeah,
mean, like either you have it or you don't, or you make do, you figure out a
right.
way around it. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
I had to remind myself, like, as we were saying, that it was 1999, right? When you were doing
mhm,
this, that, like you're rationing your photos, like you're only taking 2 photos a day, which now we're like, take 2 photos in a second, and
yeah,
then delete
yeah,
all the rest that we don't need.
yeah,
And that was fascinating to me, like the concept of like what's worthy of the picture today, like what is really the epic thing that's going to happen today, or just the beautiful thing, or even the mundane, right? Like there
yeah,
had to be there had to be a lot of monotony to the
yeah.
days. But I'm in awe of probably how beautiful it was to see. I mean, just from the pictures you included, it was gorgeous. It's a gorgeous trip.
Yeah, and I think, Charlie and I just by chance had gone to see a Jim Brandenburg photo exhibit, where it's called Chasing the Light. And in that photo exhibit, Jim Brandenburg limited himself to 1 photo a day. And it's an interesting exhibit because he talks about how it's not like he would just go out and snap a photo. He would go hiking for a day, and he would anticipate the photo for the next day. And he knew just when the
Ah.
light would be right. And so, I mean, there's so much time to think on this trip. I mean, and you talk about mundane. Yeah, there's so many mundane moments. But the beauty, and I think it's just completely lost today, is that ability to get bored enough that you think it's really fun to think about taking 1 photo a day. And so that was Charlie's task each day. And so, sometimes you blow it and you take it too soon, and now you don't get to take another photo later. But we weren't as strict as Jim Brandenburg, obviously. And but yeah, and it also makes it just so much more manageable when you get back and you don't have 5 million photos to go to, because I know the more photos I take, the less I look at them and the less I manage them. And by taking them with that amount of care, we were super worried that we would get back and because it was film, and
Mhm.
you never know with film. It's like we could have gotten back and the whole, none of the film took, or it was, blacked out or something. So Charlie was a little bit of a wreck over that. But digital cameras were not a part. I think they were probably around. I'm always way behind the 8 ball on any of this stuff, but they were not, like they are now, for sure.
No,
And they
no.
certainly weren't. There were no phones or anything like that that you carried in your pocket. So
Well, I mean, and mostly now, and when we travel, I often don't bring our 35 millimeter because the phone on my camera is so good. And my husband even has a phone case that has lenses you can attach to it and stuff. And
yeah,
it's crazy how good the quality is. So I mean, it's an interesting thing. It was fun for me to think about what life was like. I mean, granted, you're in the middle of nowhere, but I mean, generally, we didn't have all this tech. And I kept
no,
thinking,
I feel like I was almost like part of Little House on the Prairie or something. It was like so, and I have to say, like, I went to a presentation by 2 people, and I love what they're doing. It's Amy and Dave Freeman, and they're going out in the wilderness, and they're recording it for as an educational tool piece.
Mhm.
And I'm all for that, but it's really not the trip I wanted. And I think about like if we did that again, like today, I think I'd want to do it in a very similar way, because the thought of like having to set up little solar panels to charge your phone, to take the photos, and now we want to send that through to broadcast to people. It's like I have so little interest in any of that. And it's just like being out and being in the wilderness that was great. And I loved writing about it, because I did want to tell the story, but it's so hard to like be in the moment when you're trying to tell the story in the moment, you know?
Right. Right. And I remember that too, like even something as simple as like your kids' sports games, right? If you're behind the camera all the
Yeah.
time trying to get this perfect shot, you're not really enjoying the game. And I think that we've gotten sort of on a, I don't know, like just this treadmill of content and content creation that isn't healthy. And so I mean, it was kind of, like I was kind of waxing poetic about like your trip, thinking, oh my gosh, what a nice brain break. But then again, you weren't doing all the, like you weren't living in that like constant, like social
Yeah,
media, crazy thing hadn't happened yet. Right. So,
right. I
uh,
know. And for me at that time, the brain break was like, I'm not going to report on this. And yeah, so like, now add on all the other layers that we've added to our own lives and feeling this need to produce content, as you said, from every sporting event, from every kids concert. And in the end, nobody cares. It's just like lots and lots of content that nobody cares about in the end. And nobody's saving them. There's no photo albums. Put in a disc that you had from 3 years ago. It doesn't work. It's just like, it's just making us all crazy because we feel bad most of the time that we aren't doing the right things with our photos, but there's too many of them. How could you even put them in an album? So yeah,
no, it's bizarre. There's too much. It's just too
yeah.
much. All of it's too much, too much, too much. So I was thinking too about like, the nature you saw, and I mean, the places, I mean, I feel like I've been some interesting places, but never this remote, never, never, never this remote. And just like, you have this whole section about the way the loons sound. And and
Hmm.
and I mean it's really cool. And Sylvia is one of my writer friends who's on tonight. And can I tell the story about the cranes? No, it's too late. I'm going to tell the story about the cranes. And so I live out in the country. She lives in Milwaukee. It's okay. You don't live in like crane country, but they make, of course, that crazy sound, which I say, oh, it's like a pterodactyl. Like I would know what a pterodactyl sounds like. I mean, like,
Right.
what in the movies we think we know. But it's so interesting when it's not what you're used to. Like if you live around in, these remote areas, you don't think anything of it, but you could tell, I mean, obviously you're a skilled writer because these beautiful descriptions of the wildlife you were seeing. Do you have a favorite day from the trip?
Oh my gosh. Oh, what a great question. You threw me with that one. Well, first, well, I am going to make a comment on the loons. If Sylvia, if you didn't understand what the sound of loons, I had someone come
Yeah,
into the
Val didn't
bookstore.
really tell the story, and I'm grateful for that. No,
No,
I'm
I
a
mean there were
city
just
slicker and don't really get to see very many loons. So I was at her place and went for a walk, and I came back and I was like, I had a recording of it. I said to Val,
Oh,
what the hell is this? I was like, well, when I was out walking, I was like, well, if I die, I mean, I've lived a good life, whatever. If something's hunting me, I don't care.
you lived a good life, death by crane. It's okay.
well, I had a customer come into the bookstore, and I said something about he wanted something about regional birds, and I said, "Oh, here's what we have, here's what we have." And then we also have this book that just came out about loons. And he looked at me and he had no idea what I was talking about. And I was like, "How really? You don't know what loons are?" And he's like, "No, I have no idea what loons are." And he was from another part of the country. But yeah, so it's always shocking when something that's so prevalent in your area maybe isn't known by everybody else. But gosh, oh my God. Well, you know what I was thinking about when you were talking about beautiful and remote is the Churchill River. And I think
Oh,
there's a warning I describe in the book of it feels like fall is coming even though it's August. And but we woke up this one morning and it was after days of it's so weird when the wind is at whether it's at your back or it's pushing you back. You don't even realize how much that sound is in your head. And then we woke up this morning on the Churchill River, which is such a historic river. And Sigurd Olson writes a lot about the Churchill River. And we were only on it, unfortunately, for a short period, but it's just so wild and historied. And we woke up and it was completely silent, like that the wind had died. And so that, of course, in our world means get up and let's paddle. And we were paddling, and there were spider webs that had formed, with the frosty fog over the spider webs. And that morning stands out very vividly for me as just an incredibly gorgeous to be on the Churchill River with it so calm and the wildlife. I think I'd have to go back and reread my own book to remember what it was that was flying overhead, but everything was heading south. And so it was also a pivotal moment where, oh, this is when the north, the true north, begins to transition to winter. And even though it's August and even in Bayfield, it's very much the peak of summer. But there we were, like heading into fall as we were traveling up that river.
Right. So it was after Lake Winnipeg, and then you were on the Churchill before you veered off toward Lake.
Yeah, up to the reindeer. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. I love the maps. I was very grateful for your map. You had to have a map in this book. So for anybody who is online,
I'm actually like looking at, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But very important to have that. And I was curious, so then I even pulled some stuff up, and, today just kind of like thinking about like how vast this route is, like to pull up this map that you have in the book in the context of Canada, and then like looking at Lake Superior where you started. And it baffles me. Like, it's so incredibly, so far. It's so far. It would be far in a car. I mean, like, it's far on an airplane. It's, it's fabulous that you guys did that. And I love the part where you're realizing how strong you've gotten from all those days of paddling. And you're like, holy cow, look at my arm.
Yeah, we walked into it was our first little bit with we'll just call it civilization, but where we ate at a cafe that was in the Boundary Waters, but it wasn't part of the Boundary Waters. And walking, and so we'd been on the trail for about 20 days and walked into a bathroom with a mirror and didn't recognize the person who was in the mirror, because I'd gone completely, I'm gray now if I took this hat off, but I had gone from being a brunette to very much white haired blonde. And then also just my entire physique had shifted and just all muscle. Yeah.
And you had to have been super.
It was exciting. I'd love to be in that shape again.
Oh my God. When we all, right. I never have been, so I don't know anything about that. But so you probably were super tan too. Of course, you've been out.
Oh yeah. And then brown, bronze is probably not the right word, but brown for sure. And I mean, you're outside all the time and you're paddling. And so, I mean, the challenge was to not completely fry my lips to nothing and my face. And so we were, with sunscreen and hats and, covering ourselves from the elements.
Well, you would paddle what, up to 12 hours a day or longer some days? I mean, like, as long as you had light?
Yeah, and if it was calm, and I mean, and of course it's around solstice time, so the light goes forever, and so the only thing really, your only limitation is yourself. And so we would get up in the morning, and especially in those early that first month or two where we were and the thing is that there's expeditions you read about where they're doing insane miles and they're just like going. And we really wanted it to feel like, we called it a honeymoon, but, a little bit more relaxed. But yes, we were still paddling all day. But you kind of just get in that rhythm and it's like, but it is shocking when I look back and it felt relaxed, but like I said, we didn't really have time for writing or any of like that. We didn't read books during that period. As the summer went on, we realized we were going to make it before winter. And I mean, that was the push in the beginning, was like if we get windbound for a
Uh,
long time, we're not going to make it. So we just wanted to
well,
make sure we got to Wollaston by the end of summer.
well, and you didn't know. I mean, the weather can turn and you can be stuck somewhere. I was
Yeah.
really happy though. You guys took some like called Duff Days where
Yeah.
I was like, I was kind of getting worried about you. I mean, I know you came, you came through this trip. Like, I know that there's an ending here because here you are, you wrote the story.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh my gosh, take a day off and just relax a little bit. And I thought too, the days that you guys, oh my God, I could taste those blueberries. I swear to God, I could taste those blueberries as I read this, and the wild raspberries, blueberries, what else? Cranberries, all kinds of things you guys were
Yeah.
picking. Yeah.
Can you imagine after like an entire summer of dried fruit and cheese and just carbohydrates, like the joy of tasting a fresh blueberry? And yeah, and as you probably can find faster than I can, but there's a photo, and this is Charlie's favorite photo that he took. I'll
Of
find
you
it.
with with collecting and then yes. Yes.
And because this is an 80-pound pack. And this is like there's so much that's going on in this photo. One, I'm so strong. Two, I'm so excited about the blueberries, and that I am not going to bother to take my pack off to eat. So yeah.
I wouldn't have either. I'd have been diving into that, blueberry book. And I would have been. I mean, those are just like the little pieces that were just so fun. And then you met so many incredible people along the way. One of my first spots was it Mallard Island?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, with the
Oberholzer.
Oberholzer. Yeah. And these are places I do not know exist. I now, because of your book, know these
Yeah.
exist. But what a neat place. And you've gone back there now, right? Did you go back to teach at
And in fact, the woman in the book, Jean Replinger, who was the director of the Oberholzer Foundation. So just so y'all know, it's like Ernest Oberholzer was, if he had been a writer like Sigurd Olson, he would be considered one of the earliest conservationists. But what he also was a book collector, and he had an island, and he would send away to England, to France, to wherever, to find these first editions like of the Scarlet Letter, of
oh
all
my
these
gosh.
books. So when he died, and he lived to be rather old, there's a whole story with Oberholzer, you should look up. But so when he died, Jean Replinger was this woman who, I don't know how she was associated, to be honest, but she went and she saw all these books, and she feared for their future. And so she started up a group of people just going out and cataloging the books. And that was the beginning of the Oberholzer Foundation. And I had heard about it from just colleagues over the years. And so but anyway, so she plays prominently in our time at Oberholzer Island. And but what's crazy is I just got a note from her the other day. She's like 90 something, but she is an incredible story unto herself. She started Outward Bound. She was like one of the first just pushing Title IX, women into sports. She's just a historical figure herself, but it really is the one who is responsible for Oberholzer Island. And it still goes today. So, and at Oberholzer Island, what they do is they do these week-long, I don't know what they're called. Like you could go for a week, and it's a way to explore his vast collection of books. So like a poet might go and, get
Is it
inspired
kind of
by him and then write poetry.
like a residency, sort of?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
I
yeah,
just
we just wander. So I gotten permission from her. And again, it's so funny to think back to these days. Like that meant I wrote letters to her to ask her if we could come to Oberholzer Highland. She wrote back. I wrote back and told her the dates. So there was no exactitude to it, but she knew about when we were coming, and we arrived there before the whole season, and so there was nobody really on the island. And then I did return. I've returned at least twice. Twice with my dad, and my dad's an electrician. They needed all this work done with electricity. And so we did that. And then I think Charlie went once and he did, oh yeah, he did. It was Arctic something and wild mushrooms, but and it was a week of all that. So yeah, we have stayed very connected. And you know, you bring up the people, we're very connected to many of the people that we met on that trip. And I think one of the things I take the most pride in with the book is just in the way I was able to tell their stories. And can I tell you my favorite person I wrote about?
Yes, please. I'd love to know.
It's on the shoot. I want to say Lac du Flambeau, but it's not Lac du Flambeau. Oh my God, Winnipeg River. And it was Charlie at that little village. And so for those of you who haven't read the book, Charlie and I were paddling well into the night and it was up the Winnipeg River, and it was so mosquito-y. There were so many mosquitoes, and every time we would start to go to shore, it was like, bzzz. And so we'd go back to the middle of the river, and then we'd like try again, and it was bzzz. So it was a moonlit night, and it was probably after 10 o'clock, and we saw this little cabin. Well, even before we saw that, I told Charlie what my fantasy was, which is we would see a cabin with a mowed lawn and a tablecloth, a picnic table with a tablecloth. It was meant to be very fun because we had been in the wilderness. There was nothing like that. You had not seen a mowed lawn for months. And we pull around the corner and there is a mowed lawn, a cabin, and a picnic table with this tablecloth. So we parked the canoe at the dock. We ran up to the cabin and knocked on the door, because the thing about the North is that there's this Northern hospitality, or there's a Northern ethic, I should call it. No one locks their cabins. And so and it's really because people get windbound or they need a place to stay. And so I had thought maybe it would be empty, and that's like, maybe we could just pile into this cabin. Well, sure enough, there's a man greets us at the door with a shotgun because we were a bear. And it turns out his name was Charlie LaValle. He had grown up in this village that had been thousands of people with an actual cinema and a school, and now it was down to one cabin. And he lived in the biggest town, which is the Pa, which is where we were headed. But he would come here on the weekends. And in that Northern hospitality, the only place you'll find it is he just said, "Oh, we'll sleep here on the floor. Obviously, the mosquitoes are horrible. Leave all your stuff in your canoe, and we'll take care of that tomorrow." So there we were. We just on this stranger's house cabin. We just plopped down on the floor, went to sleep, woke up the next morning. He made us breakfast, and then we were on our way. And just I've thought about that so many times over the years of like, it's only in that place that you would do that, because never would you knock on someoe's door in Chicago and say, "The mosquitoes are horrible. Can we stay?"
No, they would definitely greet you with the gun, and it wouldn't be them thinking it was a bear. So
exactly.
But I feel like so many people were like that. I mean, you were being offered, portages, like, "Oh, well, I'm headed that way. Let's save you a few miles on the river.
Yeah.
Come throw your stuff into my truck bed and come this way."
Yeah. No, people loved it. I mean, they loved the idea of what we were doing. And yeah, we did not have one negative encounter that entire trip. And it was and everyone we got to know, it was so fun to be invited into people's houses. And whether we didn't have a lot of meals with people, but just to sit and hear their stories or see their collections or whatever they wanted to show us, yeah, really was a really cool thing.
Well, and also sometimes too, like, advice, if they were, they knew a lot about the area, if they've lived there for a while, like, is this the channel, or like, where, would you recommend this or that?
Yeah.
Stuff that you couldn't find because of course there weren't, wait, when did the internet start?
It was not available to us. We did not have GPS. And yeah, so that we were really following maps, and there were
Yeah.
some parts where, yeah, we had to rely on people telling us what clues to look for, because um there was, sometimes it's just this huge delta, and it's like,
Mhm.
where do you find the river here? And so we had a few people do the old, chin over that way.
And
And
you're like,
if that's
narrow
what
it
you got,
down.
it helped.
Narrow it down by a few hundred yards,
Yeah,
maybe. I don't
exactly.
know. Like the bro nod, like
Yeah.
over there. So that was when you guys were crossing what, Winnipeg Lake, Lake Winnipeg? And
Yeah,
then
that
it
was
was some,
actually, I was thinking about that. And I think I said it wrong for the Charlie Valley too. That was on the Saskatchewan. It
okay.
wasn't like Winnipeg, or it wasn't the Winnipeg River, but the Saskatchewan's where, yeah, that we had to find, where we had to find the Saskatchewan River, and it was such a muddy, mosquito-y kind of place.
I was sad that you didn't make it to the Winnipeg Folk Festival.
I know. Would that have been fun?
Yeah, I've heard it's great fun. In fact, my son's in-laws met there at the
Oh,
Winnipeg
really?
Folk Festival. This is like, I only know about it from other people. I've never been. It just sounds like a great time. So I was a
Yeah,
little
and
sad
we
that you
did
didn't
end
get
up
to do it.
we did end up going when my daughter was like 2 years old. We took her and went up there with a bunch of friends from here, and so we did end up going back and seeing it. Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing too, I wanted to ask about, I thought it was so adorable when was it people in, I think it was when you were at Wollaston Lake that they got the the Ashland Daily, whatever, they got the subscription to the paper. Was that there? Was that Wollaston? And I was like, that's dedication, right?
It is.
I mean, like
I
if they,
know, and it makes me so nostalgic for when the Daily Press mattered, because now it's a weekly press,
yeah.
and everyone would be like, "I'll look it up online." But yeah, that was
Well,
pretty cool.
because I mean, it takes so long for that to get, I mean,
Yeah.
that was, and really, if they'd wanted to read the stories, you could have just told them what you wrote.
Right.
I mean, you could have shared it, but they wanted to
Right.
see it. They wanted to see it.
Yes. Used to be a thrill to just, yeah, holding the paper.
Some of the other things, like you never stopped where the person hung their laundry by color.
Yeah.
And I can see why that delighted you. Like, who does that? Hangs like,
I know.
like the laundry as a rainbow. Like,
Yeah. I know, just all those things that you see along the river, and you just and you and it's really fun to like talk about this stuff with you, because it's in how much it's cemented in my memory. Like,
mhm.
I mean, all of us, again, like we just are, there's so much coming at us in current life that it's really hard to distinguish one day from another, and
Right,
it's like
right.
I can almost recall, at least a visual image from almost every day of that trip. And the laundry is a big piece of that one.
I bet nobody took a picture of that day, unfortunately, because I wanted a picture of that. So
Yeah, darn.
so I'm not a big canoe or kayaker. If we go anywhere, I'm always making sure there's flush toilets. I am pretty much that kind of simpler. Although I've been to some pretty remote places in other countries where, we did the jerry can shower stuff. We have a charity, so we do travel that way.
Yeah.
So I may sound like kind of wussy, but if I have to suck it up, I will, I guess. But I was so surprised about certain things that I don't know. Like I was so like kind of worried you guys are shooting rapids in a canoe. And I'm like, wait, you can do that? And there are people in the room, yeah, you can do that. And so, I mean, was there any, there had to be days, and maybe you got more comfortable clearly because you talk about this, you got more comfortable as it went along, but you were a really experienced canoeist already, right? Before you
No, I
started?
was not at all.
Charlie was.
Charlie was, and my experience, I would say, was very minimal. And that was some of our tension in the beginning was, again, his Camp Manitouish, I would call voice, and Camp Manitouish way. But yeah, running the rapids became a little stressful. One, because I think actually, like, and I grew up, on a farm, and we would take inner tubes and go down creeks. And I was very comfortable with
Yeah.
spilling, and he, because of his Manitowish training, it was like, you do not tip, period. And so it becomes a very tense situation when you're doing rapids. And kind of my thing was like, well, what's the worst that could happen? We're going to have, everything's going to be wet. But,
Mhm.
and so in some ways, what we had to come to was, I said, I think you need to get more comfortable spilling and just like, you should just like take a run on the rapids just yourself. And, it's fun. And so anyway, we came to some central point there. But yeah, I got a lot better at running rapids. He got a lot better at chilling out. So
There's a point where he, kind of shouts a directive to you, and then you do the opposite because,
yeah.
and I understand that, like when you get shouted at, like you like kind of have a weird reaction and you
Yeah.
don't like process
Like,
what's being
oh, right,
told to
left
you.
foot. Yeah.
I was like, oh, I understand this. I completely understand this. So do you guys never spilled?
We did not. We're like, and so it was funny. You brought up Wild at the start of this conversation by Cheryl Strayed. And it was interesting because when I was writing the story, the only examples I had of wilderness writing, adventure writing, were of the near-death experiences.
Mhm.
We did not have that. Because we had that more relaxed pace, and two, because because of Charlie's Camp Manitowish training. And so it was like, how do you write about a trip that actually went pretty well and make it interesting enough? And so, and I was in graduate school at the time, and one of the professors said something really interesting, which was like, you have to find the daily tensions. There's always tension. And so the tensions really then were the running the rapids and, and the evening that I got really overly hungry and was really ornery, and we had to work that out. But also it was, and so like, I was really unsure of whether to write the book at that time. Like, is there enough here? Is there enough dramatic, is there enough of an arc and a dramatic arc? And then I read Wild, and kind of as the book was, the manuscript I had was finished, but she was really inspired me to that, what? The female perspective on adventure and wilderness might be really different than what the guys have been writing. And it's, some ways it's an internal journey. And it didn't shift so much what I wrote, but it gave me confidence that, this story is worthy of being out there, even though it wasn't climbing Mount Everest or, doing something like that. So, yeah.
Well, for the average person, to be the armchair traveler with you, is a delight. Like most of us aren't going to take wait, how many miles? And let's just,
1,700.
yeah, most of us aren't going to do even one small percentage of that in a canoe, right?
Right.
So, I mean, it's already like fascinating, right? It's already interesting. So, but I
Right.
can see your point. You're coming to this as with the writer's perspective. Like, is this enough? Is this enough
Right.
to sustain it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then looking at the models of what has been written, and also just the it's yeah, your perspective gets warped the more you hang around with people who do these big adventures.
Yeah.
And I used to organize the Inland Sea Kayak Symposium, and there's always a speaker every year who had these just huge experiences. And yeah, is this one that was kind of mellow and within the continent, and is it worthy of a book form? So yeah, it is all perspective for sure.
Yeah, it's a great read. It was very, very fun. Okay, so I know that early on there was the night as you were, I think, coming into Duluth, that was pretty scary. That's a huge port and tiny canoe, and it's dark, and yeah. But of all the times, I mean, we know that one was scary. Like, was there anything as scary as that night for other reasons as you went along?
I think in some ways Lake Superior was the scariest portion for me, and it was partly because it's so big, it's so cold, and actually the scariest one was before Duluth, was going around Romans Point, right here in our own backyard. And we really could have something very bad could have happened that day. And of course it became a joke afterward of like, oh my God, they crashed and wiped out on their 4th day. We weren't even out of Bayfield County. And I mean, that's how huge Bayfield County is, that it took us that long. But yeah, I just like when I went over this huge wave that was a rogue wave on that hit a shallow rock, and I was up on this wave and I'm looking down at this just this much water between the canoe and that rock, and I'm still kind of shocked to this day. Charlie and I just this last fall took a boat ride and went over that section again, because it's just like every time I see it now when it's calm, I'm like, this isn't what I remember. But yeah, that was, I think that those were the anytime it was big water and there were waves was pretty scary to me, because as much as I was making fun of Charlie in the rapids, to me it was terrifying to think about spilling in the middle of a huge lake, where
Yeah.
it was very difficult to get to shore. And so like so and all those kind of experiences all happened right in the beginning, like on Lake Superior twice, that night going into 2 harbors, where when we landed, it started out calm that day, but when we landed, there was a blizzard had started. So there was snow and huge waves, and then we ended up staying in 2 harbors for a couple days. But yeah, going into with all those lights from the iron ore big boats, and then on Loch LaCroix in the Boundary Waters was another day where just like all of a sudden, you're going along, it's nice and calm, and you're having a lot of fun, and then the wind starts picking up and the waves start picking up, and you're like, shit, we're like a good hour of paddling to get to that other shore. And so, yeah, those were when I would just dig down and focus, and I wouldn't look up. And yeah, I did not want to spill on those.
Did you still have your dog with you at that point on Lake
Yeah,
LaCroix?
we had Knock Knock until Oberholzer Island. So we had the dog with us all through the Boundary Waters, and then up
Oh,
until
did not come back? Did he
yeah,
ever come back?
not
Okay.
no, not to me. So yeah, that was actually probably in I don't know, do I regret it? I mean, it was sad because Knock Knock was definitely my dog, and but it was so miserable because of the bugs and the flies and all that. So we sent her back to here with my parents, and she was with somebody who absolutely loved her. It was our neighbor, and it was just a fluke. She got loose, and we don't know whatever happened to her. So yeah.
I was sad about that part. I was like, oh
Yeah,
no,
that's, it's life
they're
with huskies. Like, God, they just all end up like taking off or doing something. So they're heartbreakers.
Yeah, that's their energy. They want to run. They want to
Yeah.
run. So crossing Lake Winnipeg, which is, I mean, it's an enormous lake.
Yeah.
Is it like 10th, 11th biggest
It's
freshwater?
11th largest lake in the world, and it's shallow, and it's muddy, and there's no recreation on it. So there's just no people. There's a few that's actually where most of our walleye that we eat in the US comes from, is Lake
Ah,
Winnipeg. Um and so you'll see fishermen out there gathering up the walleye, but yeah, it's kind of it's a lake that it's historic in that everyone who went north, including Eric Severide, who did the most famous of trips. Do you guys know Canoeing with the Cree? Um, yeah, I mean, Eric Severide was 17 years old, and he hops in a canoe with his best pal, and they go north to Hudson Bay. And I love that book. I still love that book. I just recommended it to somebody yesterday. And it's just it captures the true spirit of like a northern trip. But Lake Winnipeg kicked their ass. And there's another famous one of Sigurd Olson's, I'm gonna forget his name right now, but Eric Morse, actually, that was the other one. He writes about Lake Winnipeg just being the worst. So people have gotten stranded. It's just so big. Yeah, but we did it. We made it just fine. But I was just telling somebody because they told me they wanted to paddle a big lake. And I said, here's the thing about big lakes. You leave in the morning, you paddle all day long, and you set up camp and you look back and you see your campsite from the night before. It's so discouraging. It's so not interesting. You're just either looking at the lake or this shoreline. I much prefer rivers and small lakes, but that's me.
I was looking up info about Lake Wollaston, and I didn't know that it drains. It drains both ways.
Both ways.
Yeah, which is
why
unusual.
Charly loves it. Yeah. So he was like, I mean, you get there and you can go to Hudson Bay, or you can go so many directions. So it has two watersheds. It's a watershed divide right through it.
Right. Super cool. Really.
Yeah.
And then the whole time what was the name of the island you wintered on? Estevan Island. Estevan.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot. I did not know there were uranium mines.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where I think uranium mines are supposed to be. I just didn't think they were going to be like in the remote, areas of northern Manitoba, right? That was Manitoba. And you could see the lights at night from those mines. Do you know if are they still functional?
I think so. Yeah. And there's diamond mines up there. And I mean, it's the unfortunate thing about the Canadian North is that no one's watching it for the most part. And so these extraction industries can usually move in without a lot of fight. And there they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was curious. I had to look up uranium mines in Canada, and there's a lot of them actually.
Yeah.
I was surprised. And we think it's just all like pristine wilderness, right? And then you're like, oh, the lights, not northern lights, oh, uranium mine lights.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Canada gets away with a lot on that. And it was the same. I think you probably noted in that I talked a little bit about the rivers are, again, like when our sense of wilderness is so small and you look at Canada, it's so big, but you maybe don't notice things like they've dammed up rivers for electricity. And that's a lot on the US, but like that historic Churchill River that I talked about is no longer drains to Hudson Bay. It gets basically cut off because it's all been dammed up.
Was that the Churchill River where they have to provide the portage for people navigating?
No, that was on the Winnipeg River. Yeah. Winnipeg River could be crazy wild. And it was wild enough for us, but it's so dammed up. And so the Canadians required that the people who work at the dam provide portages around the dams because they understand they've kind of killed the whole freedom of the waterway.
It was kind of cute though. There was one point where like they seemed really cheerful to stop what they were doing because they got to do something different and help people.
They love seeing us. If I was working at a dam, I'd love to see us.
Do we have questions?
Did you ever encounter anything that you don't know what it is you saw?
Did we ever see something that we didn't know what we had saw or seen?
Yeah.
You mean like an animal?
Or anything, yeah.
The one thing that was actually kind of funny during the winter is that my husband Charlie has much better hearing than I do, and he could hear something and it was making him crazy. It's just like, what is that sound? Here we are on Wollaston Lake, an enormous lake. We're on an island. There's no electricity. There's no possibility for buzzing sound. And I think eventually what we found out is that it was there was a barge that would run from the mainland over to the town of Wollaston Post, they called it. And so that was the sound he was hearing, but we were 18 miles from it, but sound carried like that. So that was more of a mystery of a sound.
When you talk about how you desensitize to certain things, like the sound of the wind, whatever, like you ever notice like when your power goes out in your house, like all those electronic, like that, like You don't even, the stuff that you ignore, you don't even realize you're hearing it until, of course, your power kicks back.
not
You're
hearing it, yeah.
annoyed. Yeah.
She doesn't mention a lot of wildlife interaction and nothing negative.
Did you? She's saying that you don't mention wildlife interaction or anything negative. I mean, we're diving into those blueberry bushes, and you weren't competing with a bear or anything.
No, it actually, that was probably our one disappointment is, man, you would think you'd get up in the north like that and the wildlife would be something. I mean, we've seen in one weekend in the Boundary Waters more wildlife than we probably saw in that entire trip. I think there's one point where we saw a deer, and that was like, wow, that's a crazy wildlife sighting. I mean, we had a few black bears, but because the wildlife is hunted, they have very, very little interest in interacting with humans. And so even though we were quiet, like I think there's it was like 4th of July on Lake Winnipeg where we surprise a beaver, and that was like that was our big, like, wow, we had a wildlife experience. So no, it was not a wildlife trip for sure. I mean, we ate a lot of wild fish and stuff like that, but we were not, I don't even think, you'll have to tell me, you just read it, but I don't think we even heard wolves. And I've like been in the Boundary Waters at times and had more experiences like that than we did on that big trip. The loons in the Boundary Waters is for sure rich in wildlife, and the loon sightings and all that kind of stuff was part of that part. But yeah, the more north we got, it was down to a few ptarmigan and birds heading south.
I was definitely jealous of all your good fresh fish, though. I was like, oh man, that's going to be a good meal. Like, oh, that's going to be a good meal.
Yeah, I could definitely live on fish. And I'm lucky to live next to Lake Superior because I get whitefish and
Yeah.
I just had some herring in Grand Marais the other week. That was
Oh,
excellent.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it's fresh like that, I mean, around here, sometimes you're like, where's that from? Oh, that for sure was frozen and then like shipped in.
I know,
You're
it's
poking,
cod.
you're poking it. Yeah. You're like, oh yeah, pick something a little closer to home,
Yeah.
Was
My
there
parents live near La Crosse, Viroqua, and so we always bring the fish if we come down.
Yeah, it's like making sure that that's on your list
Yeah.
when you're, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's been a little while since I read your book. But didn't you guys custom build your canoe, and do you still have it?
Oh, good question.
Yes and yes. We drove, that was kind of the fun. Yeah, we didn't talk too much about the prep. Like we spent 2 to 3 years prepping for this trip. And part of it was we gathered a lot of our own food, dried it. We did went and gathered wild rice, and we did, we just had this insanely productive sugar maple syrup season and then we turned that syrup into sugar. But the other piece of it was the canoe, because we actually still have that old canoe that we were considering, but I mean, it had duct tape on it. It didn't seem worthy of this big expedition. And so tie into that, we were also getting married. And so that was something we had put on our wish list, was money toward a canoe. And so when we received that money for a canoe, we started looking around, and we could have, there's Kevlar and all these materials, but really we're both still drawn to the wood and wood canvas. And so then we started looking around like, well, if we're going to get a wood canvas canoe, maybe we could build it ourselves. And so we found a guy in Maine named Jerry Stelmach, who is still around. It's called Island Canoes, I think is his business. And we went out there and had 10 days. And in those 10 days, we built a canoe. And so it's wooden and it's canvas. And we brought it back with just white canvas, and then spent, I don't know, like a month doing all the stuff you have to do to the canvas to make it waterproof. And and really floated it, I think the day before the trip or 2 days, because it had to cure and do all that stuff. And we're like, hope this works. But that canoe is still clunk or going along, and yeah, we've had it out. We haven't, I can't claim to have taken it on a big trip recently, but we do at least get it out every year. And yeah, it's something that will always be with us. It'll be passed on to our children.
Yeah, I like Charlie's haiku that he wrote about your.
Oh, yeah.
It's in there. It's very
You know,
cute.
he's a poet, he's a photographer.
Yeah.
Great, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, and we had mentioned it in the beginning too, with the ice lanterns that he did for you. That
Yes.
I mean, that's love, man, to like be outside in the cold and make those beautiful like lanterns. I love that. I thought that was so sweet. So,
He just made some for me the other night because we did we had an event at the store, and I said, oh, what I want are luminaries for when people show up, and he was able to pull off 4. So now I would love to see him. So I turned 60 this year, and I'm thinking, could he pull off 60 luminaries? I mean, if 35
Okay.
seems easy.
If you get 60 luminaries, there better be some pictures that you send back, because we want to see. I mean, I don't care if you get 5, that would be great. But I mean, like that would be
5-gallon buckets.
yeah.
That size, that's a lot of buckets.
I feel like I want them now, like down my driveway, but I don't want to be the one that makes them.
Yeah.
I mean, I
5-gallon
just want them
bucket.
to show up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Could you describe how you dress for the extreme cold weather?
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. How do you, yeah, I'm really good at it. I mean, it's, it's a long underwear layer, and then, it's just layers, and stay with natural fabrics is the best step. And, actually right now, I have this wool sweater on. But yeah, and, we had, these beaver fur hats that Charlie's best pal had made for us. I think it was for our wedding. And those hats, it's all about the hats. I like this hat a lot, but if it's extreme cold, I would go with that beaver fur hat. I mean, the voyageurs and the people who lived on the land knew what they were doing. And so it's really about your feet and your head. And so we have, I really love Steiger mucklucks, and a pair of wool socks and Steiger mucklucks, and your feet are going to be good. And the thing about mucklucks is it allows you to run in the snow if you need to move fast. I would, when we got back from our trip, we got into sled dogs, and so I was a musher for 20 years, and so was out in have been until this last year. I just got rid of my last of my dogs a year ago. I've been going out in extreme cold and staying quite warm just by having the layers and the right natural gear.
What do they say? There's no bad weather, just bad clothes or bad clothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not sure I completely agree with that, but I'm just amazed though how people could survive the incredible temperatures. And you're relying on the natural like fibers or fur or whatever, because and not all like the high tech stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's supposed to work. All the special wicking fabric, all that. Heather, did you have a question?
Yeah, so your kids are adults now or nearing adulthood, whatever. What do they think anything of this? Do they realize like what a big deal it was, or?
Well, no, they I don't think they've read the book. Their friends have read my book, and they and then they'll like kind of like almost embarrass it, like, oh, so and so read your book. And but they've heard about so much about the trip. And I have to say, like, I don't know how we did it, but they both are insanely adventurous kids. And my daughter, she went to Camp Manitowish, and she hiked Isle Royale for one summer. She became a kayak guide on Lake Superior. She is so much more skilled than Charlie and I have ever been. And she has done all these amazing trips with her friends. And she's a senior in college now. But they went and they hiked all over in Colorado. So I am just like, I'm in complete awe of her. She's an amazingly accomplished outdoors woman. And then Jackson, he's not as much into the deep wilderness, but I think he's got potential.
Well, I
And
mean, I think we
he's definitely proud of he and I have a great relationship. And so he even though it embarrasses him a little, he gets a kick out of when people bring up the book. And in fact, when I was going to be coming down for this, he probably would have joined me, because he likes, my kids got dragged along for a year or two of me doing slideshows and book readings and all that kind of stuff, because I always just wanted to have them around me. So I always took them along, and Caroline got to we went to New York City to there was some book thing, and so she got to go along on that trip. So yeah, they've been a big part of it, and they're both big readers, my daughter in particular.
you say like she's more of an adventurer than you guys are. I'm like, like this is kind of a big deal.
I know it's like, I wish like her skills are so like I feel like, it was Charlie and I, we like kind of went as a unit. She goes on her own, and she's she's 18, 19, 20, and I was not doing that at 18, 19, 20. So yeah, that's the piece that I think like, wow, you are so confident in your skills, and yeah, competent.
Do people like, and when she was doing that, did people like maybe your parents or other relatives say, like, aren't you worried about her? And you're probably saying, no, she's got it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, your own kid, what they're capable of.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to ask about too was, and if you ever, like, we talk about things like party lines, back in the day when like the neighbor lady would pick up and listen. I got such a kick out of the section where everyone is hearing the exchanges. And I thought it was so cool how you could then shortwave radio to a phone call. And yeah, except that you're not everybody always remembered that everyone else could hear the conversation.
Yeah, I know. 25 years later is it, I think, and we're still, Charlie and I still shout out VEE 864. That was our call number. And it's forever like, emblazoned in our brains. And no, those phone calls were, and I was just thinking about, I don't know why, but I think it was a conversation between two women, had me thinking about the one we listened into about Hazel and the eggs and going to the hospital, and somebody hates eggs, and don't they know that? And, just that we got to listen, and that was our entertainment. I mean, we had nothing else out there. We read a billion books, but if we could turn on the shortwave radio and listen in on the conversations of the inner workings of Wollaston Lake, I mean, my gosh.
It's like better than a sitcom. I mean,
I know.
There was one other thing that I thought was really a profound sentence, and it was about having free time. And it was great pressure, something about the great pressure that comes with the gift of time.
Yes.
And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, you feel like probably you needed to be doing something profound with all this like gift of time. I don't know, that resonated with me. I mean, do you remember back to writing that, or like that feeling where like
absolutely. The because I think that's, what do we all desire but time. And then we were given it, and we had, it was guaranteed time. It wasn't like, oh, we're here for the weekend and we have this place to ourselves, but to have, and I think we really thought, if we had thought too much about it, like, I wasn't journaling the trip or planning to write about the trip, but I don't know, I guess I thought like, I would write a novel, or, I think it's the same pressure a lot of people felt during the pandemic, where suddenly you're closed in, and some people did really fantastic things, like, and you started to almost resent those people, like, who learned languages and came up with complete piano scores. And so here we were, in our own little, bubble, and kind of frustrated with ourselves that we weren't like waking up with the most creative, profound thoughts. And so yeah, it's like, it's a little bit of work. It's a little bit of work. And
Yeah.
you also have to learn to start to just take some pressure off yourself. Like, you know what? What if you don't produce anything and you just lived in a quiet way? So yeah.
Just your observations of what you saw and then conveying them to us in this book are worthy. It didn't need to be like a grand, opus kind of thing, right? This was so enjoyable to read. I just really, really appreciated all of the insight, but it gets you think, it makes you think of different things, right? And the way people interact, the way people rely on each other. I'm wondering if you know now what this was like. I mean, it was generally a positive trip. Would you do this again?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like, do you mean like go back in time and do it at that age, or do it like go out tomorrow and do it?
Probably, I know the answer there. Like, probably you wouldn't be excited to do it at this age because it's
Yeah.
a lot of physical work, right?
Right.
But I mean, you would go back
Yeah.
and yeah.
Oh yeah, I would do that trip again, in a heartbeat. And I don't even think I would change that much. I would have taken my dog all the way, and I would have taken him because it would have been great to have our, as you know, we had to end up adopting strange dogs, but
Right.
I would have loved, and as we got into mushing, it's like, oh my God, to have had dogs up there, because we could have just gone everywhere with the dogs, and it would have been a great fit. We just didn't know anything about dogs then, so if I had to do it over again, I would figure out a way to get sled dogs up there and have sled dogs for the winter. But yeah, and oddly enough, I even like we have passing fantasies of I think we'd even do it again now. And every once in a while it's just like maybe, now the kids are gone, maybe we should go back and do another part of the trip. So
Oh, write another book.
Yeah,
Part
write another
two.
book.
Maybe it's paddling in the summer. It's not paddling in winter. I don't know. Like, I don't know. So I'm curious if you like, how did this trip, I mean, it's kind of like maybe too big of a question, but this trip probably changed you. It had a huge impact on your life. I mean, is there something you can point to, like how this trip changed you or changed the way you look at the world, maybe?
Absolutely. I think it, I've sometimes used the analogy of, it was almost like getting, like a master's degree or something. It's like maybe not something you use all the time, but it's like, it's almost like you went and got your certificate. And after having done that, I have to say, I don't know that I've ever looked at anything since and thought I can't do that because I know I can. And and a lot of it is just thinking of breaking things down into bits. And, with the 1,700 miles, it never felt that long because we never thought of it as 1,700 miles. It was, we're doing 10 miles today. And so it's like, and so that's, I use it a lot with myself, even when I'm starting to feel overwhelmed by a project, it's one day at a time. And, whatever you do for that one, I follow this one woman on Instagram who does a sketch a day. And it's like, and it's amazing what you start to create when you just dedicate yourself to one thing in small doses. It doesn't yet need to be done in one big chunk. So yeah, I don't know. There's so many things I took from that trip, but I think the biggest piece is just uh and I do believe any one of us here could do it. But and obviously I realized that I had an experienced person with me, but if you break it down into chunks, we all can do remarkable things. And it's a good feeling once you've done it to know that you can do it.
I like that. That's like Julie's wisdom.
Yeah. Put that on a bumper sticker.
Let's, or a coffee mug. You could sell it in the store, in the bookstore, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I was sad in the end that you couldn't, finish the trip the way you'd planned. I mean, we all have to do what we need to do, to take care of the people that we love in our lives. And yeah. So, and it was so nice that he was able to come up and visit, though. Your father-in-law. That was very neat. So, are there any? Mary has a question.
How many pages are your journals over the trip and what condition are they in now?
Oh, the age of what?
How are your, the condition of your journals? How many pages long were your
Oh,
journals? And what are what's their condition now? Yeah.
we dug them out like well, not recently, but like let's say in the last 2 years. And the journals are in pretty good shape. They're, on a shelf inside. And we I think we had like ended up with like 6. I had one journal, and actually that's a regret I have about the book. I did so much sketching on that trip. Charly was photography, I was sketching. And now I'm gonna recommend a book tonight for anyone who liked my book. But and in her book she has sketches. And I looked at those and I'm like, yeah, I think there's more books right now that are coming out with including the sketches. And I had talked to my editor about it. The other thing I'd asked my editor, I would have liked to, and people have asked me about this, because food was such an important part of our trip. I would have, if I could do it over, I would have included recipes and I would have included sketches. But I can't. Oh, the journals. Yes. So the journals are in good condition. I had one whole sketch journal that was only sketches, and Charly had one journal, I think, that was his own. But otherwise, it's like 4 to 6 from the whole trip. Just like the 1 to 2 photographs a day. We didn't do a ton of journaling, except in the summer or in the winter. We did more then. But then
you were able to supplement too with the letters that you had been writing back and forth to people.
And that was a lot of our writing, is that we were keeping in touch with Charly's dad, with my mom, with good friends, neighbors, and then my writing that I would do for the Daily Press, just to keep the neighborhood informed.
As one does.
Yeah, as one does.
When you're from small town Wisconsin. Right?
Yeah. I know, it's big news when your neighbor goes on a trip. Yeah.
We know everything. We need to know everything. Are there any other questions? No more questions from everybody. I could talk to you forever about this story, though. I really, really could.
Really cool to talk to you.
Look at all the flags I put on your.
You are a great researcher, I have to say, and interviewer.
Well, I had to be ready. I got to be ready to ask questions. You never know. Maybe nobody in here is going to ask any. They always do. They always do. So it was lovely. Thanks for spending the time with us tonight. And then, go on another trip, write another book. We'll have you back.
Yes. Oh, so the book I'm going to recommend, because I just finished it. It's called A Woman of the Polar North, and it just was re-released by Pushkin Press. This is in the 1930s. She is from Austria, and her husband is like some biologist or something on Spitsbergen Island, which is north of Scandinavia. And so but there's so many moments in the book where I'm just laughing and reading them to Charly, because very similar kinds of experiences, except she is in darkness, because it is darkness for, I think it's like 4 months of winter. And then, and I can't even imagine how, like, we had definitely low light and little light, but to not have any light for months on end sounds just horrible. And then secondly, and then they had polar bears. So they're just like those other elements of wilderness. But she is a delight. And she has this one wonderful sketch of somebody drops by one day with sled dogs, and they go out on just a big dog sled run. And I just love the sketch she did of that. And she was an artist, actually. And I'm trying to remember, I can't even remember her name, but A Woman in the Polar Night. And it's Christian Ritter. Anyway, cool. If anyone enjoyed Paddling in Winter, they will enjoy that one. So, and I just couldn't even believe I just ran across this, because there are not a lot of wilderness stories written by women. And so I'm always on the search for them. So, well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wish I could have been there drinking beers with you another time.
That's okay. Yes, you're ever down this way, let us know.
We'll if you ever come to Bayfield, any of you, stop by Honest Dog Books, and maybe I'll see you at the swim race or the book across the bay. But there's lots of cool stuff going on up by us. So
it's all right. It's gonna be road trip, field trip, books and beer field trip to Bayfield. Yes. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Have a great night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.